Welcome to Legislative Updates. I'm your host, Doug Thompson, with my co-host, John Barker. And John, this is the third show that we've done for the legislature sessions that we do each year. And so you brought a special guest out.
I did. I brought Colonel Chris Croft. He's been on the show before. I think it was last year.
Yep.
He's the chairman of redistricting, which is an important job this year.
Yeah, and it's a hot topic. Yeah. We're going to be anxious to visit with you about that. And Chris, let's see, you're from the 100th District, Overland Park area.
8th District.
8th District.
It could be the 100th. I don't know. Maybe
I was just testing you.
Redistrict.
It could be.
No, the 8th District. I remember it now. I already forgot it. So, John, where do you want to start? Because this is Friday afternoon, and so I know you've come in and you guys have had a busy session. So, update us.
We have. I'm on the way home, and Chris has got to turn around and go back to Johnson County. We were there this morning on a redistricting committee. But this week, as far as Fed and state goes, we heard a couple of bills. Senate Bill 181, which is a elevator safety bill. I was surprised there's over 10,500 elevators in the state of Kansas, and and the state has no standards for them.
I didn't realize that.
Cities do, or at least some cities do, and we're one of two states that do not have any elevator safety requirements.
Wow.
So we've had a hearing on that. We also had a hearing on House Concurrent Resolution 5022, and this has to do with the constitutional amendment to make sheriffs a constitutional position. They've been, we've had sheriffs forever, and at one time in our Constitution they were a constitutional position, and I think it was in 1902 for some reason they were taken out. So I had a hearing. I had the Sheriff's Association appear as a proponent. I had Sheriff Easter, who's the sheriff in Sedgwick County, came in and testified, and I had 25 other sheriffs sitting in the audience during our hearing. It went very positive. We had one opponent who I think is going to be more of a neutral, and that was the director of the Raleigh County Police Department, because they are the only county in the state, and they changed it over in the 1970s, where they don't necessarily have a sheriff. They have a county police department.
Theirs is combined, isn't it?
Theirs is combined,
Mm-hmm.
and he wasn't in opposition of the bill, but he was, he told me, he said, I'm just fearful someone will put an amendment in that will make apply to Raleigh County also. And I assured him that the Sheriff's Association said if that would occur, they would withdraw their support. So I think he's more of a neutral. He just wanted to let us know that Raleigh County's happy the way it is, but other counties can do as they see fit. So we did that. Then we were on the floor one day. We passed the governor back in the first part of January signed a couple of executive orders giving some freedom to hospitals and nursing homes to hire people from out of state that are licensed in other states to come in and help during the pandemic. And of course that would go away without legislative action. So we had on the floor House Bill 2477, which is cutting the red tape for hospitals and nursing homes. And basically what it does, it reduces regulations for healthcare workers, allowing hospitals and nursing homes to use those in the medical education programs and those who are maybe licensed in another state to help ease the staff shortages. And of course we put a sunset on it. We initially put May. When it went to the Senate, they changed it till January of 2023. And the Senate, after we passed it, we sent it to the Senate. They put a couple of amendments on it. It comes back to us, and we just concurred to their amendments because the executive orders that the governor had signed were going to expire. So we went ahead and passed that, and I would imagine the governor's probably signing it today.
And that continues on until January of next year?
Right, January 2023. It's needed because, keeping staff at nursing homes and hospitals, there's just a shortage, and a lot of those folks need to go out and find other services to provide people, and they're paying them an outrageous amount to get doctors or nurses in. And nursing homes are trying to get CNAs, certified nurses. So I think that will help. As soon as this pandemic is over, I hope we're talking about that in a few months that it's over.
Yeah.
It will go away. Then, of course, my chairman's been having all these redistricting committees. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but it's been a busy week.
Boy, it sounds like it. We're going to cut away. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, Chris, I'm going to visit with you, and we're going to talk about the redistricting because that's a hot spot. We'll be right back. You're watching Legislative Updates. Welcome back to Legislative Updates. I'm your host, Doug Thompson. My co-host, John Barker, is on your left as you're looking at the screen. And in between us is Chris Croft. And Chris is from the, or as I like to say, the 100th District, but he's really from the 8th out of Overland Park. And Chris is a retired colonel, and he's been on the show a few times before, and always a pleasure to have you back.
Thanks for having me.
And now I know you've got something that's pretty controversial going on up there, and there's arguments about it, and it's called redistricting. What does that mean?
Well, it's definitely there's a lot of opinions, for sure. And what I like to say is this is a major math problem with a lot of emotion. And it's really, that's what it is. It's every 10 years we go through this process where they have the census, and then based off the numbers, the population growth, we have to adjust our lines. We have to adjust because by the law of the land is that the districts have to be exactly the same size. So we're not talking about voters, we're talking about people. Down to 0 is the deviation.
So it's not the geographical area, but it's the people.
The people is the number. That's what you have to shoot for. And 20 years ago, they got it down to 69, and then the courts adjusted it even lower. And then last time the courts drew it, and the best they could get it down to is 10. This time we have it down to 0. We actually have it to 0
with one of the maps.
With one of the maps. There's another map that has one deviation. There's another one that has 100 and something. Another one has about 300. And so you look at those things, and those are all factors that matter. But what's interesting about this whole process, we started not right now, which a lot of people think, and they look at this as a snapshot in time. We actually started. Like I said, it's a 10-year process. So research is doing a lot of stuff every year. They're doing things. And so they're always in the churn of this. We get involved as it gets closer and the data comes out. So actually in the fall this year, we had listening tours. We went around the state before all the data came out to hear what folks had to say. And that was really good for us. I was excited because then we weren't hampered by everybody talking about the data. We were talking about your community. And how is it that if I'm sitting at 30,000 feet and drawing a map, what do you want me to consider on the ground? You're on the ground. Tell me now, so that way when I'm sitting in the room, I can draw that and take your things into consideration, and that's what we did. So we ended up, we had 18 stops. We had 25 cities. 4 of those 18 were all online, all in the evening, and they were done by congressional district, but you could be at home and do this. So we had over 500 pieces of testimony. We have an online, we have a redistricting site and an email address where people, if you wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning, you decided to say something, draw something, do it, send it in. We have somebody monitoring it. And so that's kind of what we did. And then I had the pleasure this time of introducing 2 of the maps. One was the League of Women Voters map. And they asked me to introduce it for them, so I did. And it's called Blue Stem. And then I got asked to introduce the Ad Astra map, which is the one is kind of the leading candidate right now as we're going through.
Yeah, because it has 0 deviation.
0 deviation,
and
right.
the numbers are 734,470 in each district.
Right.
And I've got a copy of it, and I'll have them put it on the screen so people
can
look at that.
Put it up on the screen so people can see it.
Yeah. And it's a number that's burned in my head.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
So, and as we're talking about that map and the congressional map, then we also have the state maps. So we are responsible for the congressionals, the state maps, the House maps, the Senate maps, and the State Board of Education. So all of that stuff comes through. The Senate is going to draw their map, and the State Board of Education, we're drawing our map with our 125 members. We both worked on these other maps for the congressional, so all that has to go in a sequence of time, and all of it has to be approved by May 11th. Otherwise, we don't meet the timelines we have for 1 June filing dates. So there's a very specific time, and there are so many steps that have to go. You have to move quickly to get things done at the beginning.
So what kind of complaints do you run into?
Well, it's a lot of it's about perception. You have this belief, and it's another belief. So what one person says, because if you look at it, you can draw lines anywhere. I could draw lines all over this place. And so that's really the argument, is where you're drawing the lines. The biggest one for the congressional is, do you include, the 3rd District is obviously the one right now that had grown the most. And right now, we heard keep Johnson and Wyandotte County together. Well, mathematically, we cannot do that.
You can't do that.
It's mathematically impossible based off the law. Right. So what do you start with? Well, the core of the 3rd District has always been Johnson County. So we started there, keeping that whole, and then moving from there. Okay, then what parts of Wyandotte County? And you start looking at the lines, and in this case, took a natural feature of I-70, match it up with the river, made a good long cut. It kept along the guys together, Johnson County and Wyandotte, in a longitudinal array, right, rather than north-south. Then you'd only get part of it. And then it just went county because we wanted to keep counties whole. As we commented, one of the things we know is this map only has 3 counties that have a split in it, which is a good number.
Yeah, it is.
So it's really surprising we could get it that close. Now, on I-70, you'll see that there's a little tweak above, a little tweak below, but you had to do that to get the numbers. Oh, I would love to have it right on the road, but the deviation's 8, so you don't want to go there. So,
yeah. And you'll hear the term gerrymandering.
Oh.
And that's an old term that's been, it was a political term used many years ago when a guy named Jerry actually did mander maps. But every time you move a line, you're gerrymandering. You're moving a line. Even though if you don't do that, you would not be in compliance with the federal statutes. Because congressional districts, once we do these and pass these, whatever bill, whatever map we decide on, then a lawsuit will be filed, then it will go to federal court,
right,
and the federal court will decide whether we have met the burden that's our responsibility. Where when we do the state maps, the House districts and the Board of Education and the Senate, it just has to be approved by the Supreme Court, the state Supreme Court. So there's 2 different avenues it goes.
And we have a little bit more leeway, and I know we're about at a break.
Oh, we're
but
okay.
Okay. But we have a little bit more leeway when we're talking about state maps. So we get plus or minus 5%, where the congressionals are 0 people difference. Right. And again, these are all based off populations, not voters, not how you register. It's based off
the population.
The population, a person.
So when we hear about the fact that, well, you're changing this because there's a Republican here or a Democrat here, it's not. It's just based on numbers. You don't even know it.
Right.
Oh.
In fact, we don't look at that data.
Okay.
Right. When we're drawing the lines, we're drawing the lines, and then we go from there.
I understand. We're going to cut away, take a break. You're watching Legislative Updates. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Legislative Updates. I'm your host, Doug Thompson. My co-host, John Barker, is on the left on your screen, and in between us is Chris Croft from the 8th District out of Overland Park. And first off, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks. Yeah.
And we were talking about this redistricting, and I know as I hear about it and read something in the newspaper, why it makes it appear in the newspaper that what's going on is, well, you're determining where how you can affect the outcome of Democrats, Republicans in there, but in reality, you don't have a clue who the voters are within that.
Yeah, and we're working, right, we work with the population numbers is what we work with. And all of this stuff that we're doing is driven by population numbers. And that's just the way it is.
And then there was something that you said in there just a little bit ago, Chris, about, there's a lot of counties, and there's only 3 counties that are split up out of...
3 counties. So out of the 105 counties in the state, only 3 under this map of the Ad Astra map are split up in there. And I think the other one, the main Democrat one right now is, or in the main bill we're looking at is the Buffalo 2. That one I think splits a few more counties.
I think it splits 5.
5, yeah.
And I think it splits Geary County.
I think it might.
Yeah. Northern part of Geary County would be in one congressional district, and the southern part would be in another.
Right.
Yeah.
And but in both those maps, they have Johnson County together along with Wyandotte County, but it's a larger percentage, I think.
Right. And again, that's how it used to be.
Yeah.
It's a matter of how you split it. One of them splits Johnson County, the Ad Astra splits Wyandotte County. Right. So that's kind of, and I mentioned earlier we had 18 events, but we also had many of our committee members have gone out in their communities and talked. And so we also heard that feedback too. So you don't see it all in there on the testimony for the listening tours, but each of us have gone out there and had input, and with that, all that input is what's come to bear into these maps. And it's kind of an experience. So next week, what we're going to do, so this week what we did is we introduced the maps. And again, we're week 2, but we have to do this so we can get this through the judiciary process, as the judge mentioned, is that we have to plan on the worst case scenarios on time. So we really don't have much of a window. So this week we introduced the maps on Tuesday. People have been working these maps for months now, right? So they come in on Tuesdays when I wanted to officially hear them after they've been reviewed, making sure everything's right, so we can post the data and you can go look at them. And they're on the website right now. And then what we do is then we had hearings this week. So all this week we dedicated to listening what the public had more to say about these maps and what others in our community have had to say. And then on Monday, we'll start working them, which that means we're going to take action and vote them out of committee, get them to the floor. The Senate passed the version of it today off the Senate floor. Now it's going to hit the House on Monday as well, and it's exactly the same, minus one small change that we'll have that fixed next Monday, and they'll be exactly the same bills that go
that's
out.
awesome.
Right.
I know that's a lot of work, what you're going there.
Well, unfortunately, that's only 1/4 of the piece we have to get done.
Wow.
We haven't done the state maps, and
Right.
the House and the Senate and the school board, state school
Right.
board. But what I've, people understand, they think we're hurrying, and we are, because we're in week 2. We're just ending week 2, and then we have the time that we've got to get this done, get it to the governor. Should the governor veto it, then it comes back to us to look at another map or attempt to override her veto.
Right.
And then if we have to go back and we can't override her veto, then we have to start it with a new map.
Right.
And
Wow.
we've got cutoffs, and June 1 is the filing deadline.
And think about this, every time we change a precinct, the local counties have to fix the precincts and let everybody know. So there's so many pieces that have to move, so the faster we can get it out there to them to give the local community time to adjust to everything is what we're trying to do. We're trying to do this to help them get, so it's not so
Sure.
chaotic at the end.
Well, I hadn't thought of that when you talked about the precincts and you're setting those up. There's clerks in every county that's
Right.
got a lot of work to do to adjust to any sort of a change.
Right, and most people think our minimum is the precinct. It's not. The minimum is a voting census or a census block. A census
Like
block.
a ward.
Yeah,
Oh.
but it could even be small. It could be your neighborhood of 60 people.
Right.
I mean, it varies, and none of them are the same. If you thought it was just this little nice square, they're not nice squares, and that's why you get some weird looks.
Well, I understand.
So,
What else you been working on?
well, yeah, there's so many things, but I know one of the things I'm very interested in is the Star Bonds, and there was a post audit that was done on the Star Bonds program. It shows kind of a messy program right now. I personally am looking for an alternate means of Star Bonds. So if any of your listeners have some good ideas on the better ways to do something like Star Bonds, let me know. I would love to engage them on that process.
We'll put the contact information, as we always do, for John Barker, and we'll put
Okay.
it up there for you, Chris. So
All right.
somebody
Sounds
may
good.
take you up
Yeah.
on it and want to visit with you.
I'm on post audit, and we're
Right.
the one that ordered the Star Bonds audit, and we thought there was a little problem. It's a big problem.
Really?
And the folks can go to the Kansas Legislative website, and then on the left side there'll be an icon that says Legislative Post Audit. They can hit that. It'll bring up all the audits to include this audit, and they can read it on the internet. It was very disappointing.
There's two other things real quick. Unemployment. I know that a lot of your folks that are struggling with the unemployment can contact Judge Barker and others, but if you know of anybody, we're trying to do it. We're seeing an uptick in problems with it again. So it's concerning because they're not answering the phones again. That's causing us to have to do more work. The last thing on a positive note, last year we took a $500 million bond out at 2.65% to help CAPERS. Really boosted CAPERS up. It was a great rate, and we now only have a $5 billion unfunded liability. We are almost at 80%, so it's stable. It's looking great.
Right.
It's
And
in
10
good
years
place.
ago, when I was on Capers, it was 56%.
I remember.
Right.
We had
Yeah, we had that
That's a great
conversation.
job.
Yeah, people were concerned. You said that every time you're back, somebody would ask you about, will there be retirement
Right.
money when we get to that point.
Exactly.
We're going to cut away, take a break. You're watching Legislative Updates. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Legislative Updates. I'm your host, Doug Thompson, with my co-host, John Barker. And, of course, in between us, you see Chris Croft from the 8th District out of Overland Park. Chris, thank you so much for being here. And, John, as we look into what's going on next week, what are you going to bring back out to share with us?
The chairman here will get a bill or a map kicked out. We'll probably take it out on the floor since the Senate already did that today. And then, I've got hearings set for next week. Next week, I want to have Ron Hyland. He's the chairman of Water, and he tells me he has a 400-page water bill. He spent all summer working on it.
Oh, wow.
But he spent his whole career not as a vet, and he has a PhD in research, and he's the type of guy that needs to do that type of thing. And
It sounds like it.
It's a 2-year program.
It sounds like it. Hope you've enjoyed this session of Legislative Updates. We'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.